Hello guys, this is Claudia from claudiamyenglishteacher.com. Welcome to my fourth and last video on the IELTS listening test, where I explain how to tackle and how to approach the listening part 4 with its structure and its techniques. Stay with me.
In listening part 4, you will have one speaker talking about an academic subject. This could be a professor giving a lecture on global warming. It could be a talk on a particular animal species. It could be a speech about languages. Or it could be a lecture on the history of a musical instrument, for example. Here you've got a sample of the listening part 4, and we can see that you've got questions from 31 to 40. And what type of questions do you have? In this case, we've got sentence completion, which is very common in listening part 4. Now, the questions will always follow the order of the audio, like in the other parts. And as I've said and stressed out in all my other videos, you need to be careful of the amount of words or numbers or letters that are required. So in this case, for example, from question 31 to 40, you need one word only. So in those gaps, you will go and put one word only. You get 30 seconds to go through your questions from 31 to 40 before the audio starts. And some people think 30 seconds is not a lot of time. It isn't, but if you get used to this with practice, you'll find out that it's actually enough. Now, the most important thing about those 30 seconds is that you need to go and look for the keywords. And now you're probably asking yourselves, what are the keywords in this part? Okay, so to understand what the keywords are, let's close up on some of the questions, and specifically on question 31, 32, 33, which are the first 3 gap sentences of part 4. The keywords are the words that come before and after the gap. So in the case of 31, it will be all the words that come before 31 and all the words that come after. And why is this important? Because those words that come before and after will help you figure out what kind of word you need in the gap. So, for example, in this case, we've got the effects of different processes on the gap of the earth. Now, what kind of words do you think you'll need there? And I mean grammatically. I'm not telling you that you need to guess the word. Just grammatically, what kind of word do you think goes there? Well, we've got the, which is an article. And after articles, we know that we put a noun. And then we've got of the earth. So we know already that 31 is probably a noun. So that's the first thing you need to look at, but not only. Because whilst it's true that in the audio you will hear the exact word that you need, the other words around that gap might not be said as you see them. And you'll probably hear their synonyms. So, for example, in 31, let's look at what comes after 31 to start with. You've got of the earth. So you'll probably hear the earth. And this is most probable because there's not many synonyms of the earth. But if we look at all the words that come before 31, we've got processes, and you might not hear processes. You might hear its synonym, which is, stages. You've got different. You might not hear different, but you might hear various, because various is a synonym of different. You've got effects, the effects. You might not hear the effects. You might hear its synonym, which is impact, for example, or you might hear the verb of effects, which is affect, spelled with the A. And the same thing is for 32. We've got the dynamic between gap and population. So the first thing you do is you go and try and guess what kind of word grammatically we need. And that would be a noun because you've got between and a population. Population is a noun, so you'll probably have a noun as well. But then will the recording say population? Well, we don't know, but they might say a synonym of population, which in this case could be people who live in a certain place. If we go back and if we look at the words before 32, you've got between, and that's probably going to be the same because there's not many synonyms of between. But if you look at the dynamic, the audio might not say dynamic. They might use another word. They might use a synonym. So what is the dynamic of something, which is very used in the plural, but in this case it's in the singular. Now, the dynamic of something are those, let's call it forces that control the relationship between people or things. So you might have the relationship between that gap and the population, or you might have the forces that control something between the gap and the population. And the same is for 33. You've got human lifestyle and there. So you know that grammatically you're probably going to have a noun because you've got there, which is a possessive. But then you might have, instead of lifestyle, you might have the way people live. And instead of human, you might have, people, or you might have, we. Because sometimes when we talk about human beings in general, we use the first person plural, which is we. So you might have a lot of synonyms, although the word that goes in the gap will be pronounced and will be said. So the exercise is a lot on the questions that you have. Okay, the focus and your attention needs to be on those questions. Okay, so here I've copied and pasted the audio script for you so that we can understand better what's going on and the dynamics of listening part 4. On the right here, you can see you've got question 31, 32 and 33 with that Q that stands for question. And the words that we need are underlined and you can see them here, surface, environment and impact. Now let's focus on 31. Which is right here where it says, well, we learn a great deal about all the processes that have affected and that continue to affect the Earth's surface. So as I said, the Earth is probably going to be mentioned because there's not many synonyms of Earth. But look at the words that come before. The processes is there. Different is not there, but they're saying all the processes. And the effects is not there, but what they're using is the verb for effect. And they're using it twice, have affected and affect. If we move on to 32, we've got, but we learn far more than that because studying geography also informs us about the different kinds of relationships that develop between a particular environment and the people that live there. So what do we have? In 32, after 32, we've got the population. Are they using population? No, they're using the people that live there. And are they using between? Yes, because as I said before, there's not many synonyms. And are they using the dynamic? No. So what are they using? They're using the different kinds of relationship. And if you remember, a couple of minutes ago, I told you that the dynamic or the dynamics are those forces that control the relationships people or things have with each other. So they're using the synonym of dynamic. The same thing happens for 33, where the question says human lifestyle and there. And that paragraph says, okay, we like to think of geography as having two main branches. There's the study of the nature of our planet, its physical features, what it actually looks like. And then there's the study of the ways in which we choose to live and of the impact of those on our planet. So, what are they using? Are they using physical features which guides us onto our question? Yes, they're using physical features and they're saying what it actually looks like. And then if we go down, are they using human lifestyles? No, but they're using we instead of human. And they use choose to live. Choose to live is the way you live, which means lifestyle. Are they using their, the possessive pronoun? No, but what they're using is impact of those. So there is a possessive, and of those is also a possessive. So as you can see, the answers are there, but sometimes they use the same words, sometimes they use synonyms. So you always need to focus on what comes before and after. Always underline the words, okay? Because you might hear a synonym of it, or you might simply hear the same word. Okay, so here you've got questions 34, 35, 36, 37. You will hear the recording very soon, but before you start doing the exercise, I'd like you to pause this video and spend some seconds on thinking about the kind of word you need in the gap and on studying the words that come before and after the gaps. So remember to try and figure out what synonyms they might be using instead of the word you find here. I have broken down these questions for you with an audio script as well, so you can follow the audio script and listen to the recording at the same time. So hope you find this useful, and the answers are at the end of the exercise. So when 37 finishes, you'll see the answers written there.
But there are more specific study areas to consider too, and we'll be looking at each of these in turn throughout the semester. These include biophysical geography, by which I mean the study of the natural environment and all its living things. Then there's topography. That looks at the shapes of the land and oceans. There's the study of political geography and social geography too, of course, which is the study of communities of people. We have economic geography, in which we examine all kinds of resources and their use, agriculture, for example. Next comes historical geography, the understanding of how people and their environments and the ways they interact have changed over a period of time. And urban geography, an aspect I'm particularly interested in, which takes as its focus the location of cities, the services that those cities provide, and migration of people to and from such cities. And lastly, we have cartography. That's the art and science of map making. You'll be doing a lot of that. So, to summarise before we continue, we now have our key answer. Studying this subject is important because without geographical knowledge, we would know very little about our surroundings and we wouldn't be able to identify all the problems that relate to them. So, by definition, we wouldn't be in an informed position to work out how to solve any of them. Okay, now for some practicalities. What do geographers actually do? Well, we collect data to begin with. You'll be doing a lot of that on your first field trip. How do we do this? There are several means. We might, for example, conduct a census, count a population in a given area perhaps. We also need images of the Earth's surface which we can produce by means of computer generation technology or with the help of satellite relays. We've come a very long way from the early exploration of the world by sailing ships when geographers only had pens and paper at their disposal. After we've gathered our information, we must analyse it. We need to look for patterns, most commonly those of causes and consequences. This kind of information helps us to predict and resolve problems that could affect the world we live in.
Thank you for watching this video. If you want more advice on the other parts of the listening or the other IELTS papers, please watch my other videos, which you can find here in the description or on my website claudiamyenglishteacher.com. If you need help with the IELTS in general, visit my website to see the courses I'm offering at the moment and just drop me an email explaining what you need. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook for mini weekly IELTS lessons. Thank you so much.